Welcome back, everyone. Ready for a deep dive on something I know's got you thinking? The law of attraction.
It's everywhere you look these days.
Everywhere. So we're going to break it down, see how much of this mind over matter stuff really holds up.
Right, because it can seem like a big mix of psychology, spirituality, even physics gets thrown in sometimes.
It's a lot. So we found this source, and they've laid out all these potential effects of the law of attraction, but they've got them ranked from like totally makes sense to whoa out there.
Love that. Got to categorize somehow, right?
Exactly. So we're using their system to see what's what, starting with Tier C, which they call logic and realist probability. This is where it gets kind of down to earth with actual psychology backing it up.
Absolutely. Positive thinking, goal setting, building your self-confidence, that's all behavioral science.
Our source even uses the example of someone who's generally optimistic. They're just naturally going to spend more energy looking for solutions than dwelling on the problem.
Which already puts them ahead of the game, right?
Right. And then there's that classic job interview example. You go in feeling good, you've pictured yourself nailing it.
Huge difference versus the person who's convinced they're going to mess up. You can practically feel the difference in the room.
It's like giving yourself that mental pep talk beforehand instead of picturing disaster.
Totally. And that ties right into Tier B, which is all about psychological and social influence.
So now it's not just our thoughts affecting us, but they might actually be doing something to the people around us.
Subtly, yeah. And that in turn influences our own reality even if we don't realize it.
Less about manifesting things out of thin air, more like being receptive to what's already there.
Yes. Because when we're stuck in negativity, we might miss those opportunities.
Oh, totally. Like you buy a new car, suddenly you see that same car everywhere. It's not that there's more of them, it's just you're noticing now.
Exactly. Our source even talks about how a positive attitude can, without anyone meaning to, rub off on the people we're with.
Oh, 100%. Have you ever noticed when you're in a good mood, it's like things just go smoother, people are nicer, even little stuff just works out. Makes you wonder about that whole energy thing.
Right. I'd be careful about calling it energy exactly, but there's tons of research on nonverbal cues.
Okay.
And this thing called emotional contagion. Our moods really do affect each other.
So less about manifesting good luck, more about cultivating a mindset that good luck likes to hang around.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. Now, ready for where it gets a little more mysterious.
Hit me.
Tier A. The mind's influence on something they call subjective reality. We're talking about synchronicities.
Okay, so now we're getting into you think about someone and they call you that instant. Or you see a certain number everywhere.
Yeah, all those moments that make people go, whoa, is the universe messing with me? Makes you think about the law of attraction in a whole new light. Like, imagine you're thinking about an old friend, haven't talked to them in ages. Phone rings, it's them. What are the odds?
Right, makes you think you've got a special hotline to the universe or something. But okay, how much of that is actually the universe and how much is, well, us?
The million-dollar question. And honestly, a lot of it comes down to things like confirmation bias, which basically means we see what we want to see. You're looking for signs, you're going to find them, even if they're just random.
Like you're convinced you're going to win the lottery. So every number you see suddenly feels meaningful, even if it's just, a bus going by.
Exactly. And then there's selective attention, which is our brain being like, oh, this thing I was just thinking about, it's happening, Mom. But we forget all the times we thought about it and nothing happened. Our brains are kind of masters at making connections.
We're pattern-seeking machines, even if the pattern is just us making stuff up.
Totally. But here's the thing. Even knowing that, sometimes those synchronicities are so weird, so specific.
Yeah.
You can't help but wonder if there isn't something more going on that we just haven't figured out how to measure yet.
Like the science part of your brain is like, coincidence, move along.
Yeah.
But then there's that other part that's like, but what I?
Exactly. What IF? Which is what makes this whole topic so much fun to talk about. It's that edge of the map where things get blurry. Which brings us to Tier S. Difficult to explain, but credible. Stuff we can't prove scientifically, but there's enough stories, enough people saying, this happened.
Okay, lay it on me. What kind of stuff are we talking about in this tier?
So our source talks about the idea that people can actually influence things around them just through their intention, their energy.
Whoa, hold on. Not like moving objects with their minds.
No, not telekinesis. More like subtly shifting probability.
So influencing the odds.
Exactly. Like you hear those stories, people who need a certain amount of money, and then they just find it. Or they're focused on attracting a very specific opportunity, and it just seems to fall into their lap.
Like when you're having a bad day and you think, I could really use a win today, and then boom, something good happens.
Right. Now, again, hard to prove scientifically, but these stories pop up everywhere throughout history, different cultures. A lot of people attribute it to the power of the mind.
Makes you wonder if maybe we haven't fully cracked the code on this whole mind-body connection thing. Like, what if our thoughts do have a bigger impact than we realize?
The big what if. And since we're already there, might as well address those S tiers and beyond, right?
The deep end of the pool. This is where it gets into, like, full-on fantasy land.
Right. Some might say that, but I think it's important to at least acknowledge these more, shall we say, creative interpretations of the law of attraction.
I'm all for keeping an open mind. But also, a little healthy skepticism never hurts. So hit me with it. What are we talking here?
Well, one of the big ones is this idea of immediate physical manifestation. Basically, if you can think it, you can make it appear like that fast.
Oh, okay. So I need $1 million. I just picture it really hard, and poof, it's in my living room.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where we leave law of attraction and head straight into wishful thinking territory.
Definitely a line there. Big difference between cultivating a positive mindset and thinking you've suddenly got like magical powers over reality.
And not to mention, that kind of thinking could be seriously risky for some people. Imagine thinking, oh, I can just manifest more money, and then racking up debt because of it.
Exactly. That's why you need that critical thinking, especially with these concepts that are so open to interpretation, you know?
So how do you tell the difference when it's helpful versus potentially harmful?
Discernment, that's the key. You got to question everything, be wary of anything that sounds too good to be true.
Easier said than done, though, right? Especially these days, social media is full of people claiming they manifested this or that. It's easy to get caught up.
Oh, absolutely. It's like, remember, you're seeing the highlight reel, not the behind the scenes. Don't compare your everyday life to someone's carefully curated online persona.
It's easy to forget that, though. We see the success, but not the struggles that came before it.
Exactly. So take those stories with a grain of salt, because real lasting change, that takes time, effort, being honest with yourself about what you want.
Less about hacking the universe, more about understanding how our minds work in the first place.
Exactly. The law of attraction, when you approach it with a healthy dose of realism, can be a really powerful tool. But it's not magic, it's about self-discovery.
Right. Not denying reality, but working with it. But I gotta say, after going through all these tiers, I'm kind of starting to think maybe there is a little something more to it.
And that's the beauty of it, isn't it? It makes you ask those questions, explore what you believe about reality, about the mind.
Stay curious.
Always. But curiosity aside, probably time to bring this deep dive back down to earth a bit. What's the takeaway for everyone listening?
Right, because this has gotten pretty far out there.
It has. For me, it's like this. The law of attraction might not solve every problem, but it does show you how powerful our thoughts are.
That we're not just along for the ride. We've got some control over the direction things go.
And with that control comes responsibility.
It's like that saying, be careful what you wish for, but for your thoughts. Because if they really can shape our reality, even just a little bit, we better choose them wisely. Although, that does make you wonder about something else. So if our own thoughts have an effect on our own little worlds, what happens when you've got, like, a whole bunch of people thinking the same thing? Could that actually make something happen on a bigger scale?
Now that is a question people have been debating for, like, centuries. There's this whole idea of a collective consciousness.
Right, like we're all tapping into the same energy field or something.
Something like that. Like when there's a huge event, good or bad, and it's like everyone's feeling the same emotions at the same time.
So if my energy can impact my life, maybe our combined energy can impact the whole world.
That's the thought. And there are those who point to times in history when big social changes happened, and it seemed like everyone's beliefs were shifting at the same time too. But it's really hard to prove if one caused the other, you know? It's not that simple. Can't ignore all the other stuff that goes on. Politics, the economy.
So, fun to think about, but maybe don't go betting on just positive vibes to solve all the world's problems.
Probably not, no. The world's a complicated place. And the law of attraction, it might be a good guide for your own life, but it's not going to magically create a utopia.
Got to put in the work, not just the thoughts.
Exactly. So whether you believe the really out there stuff or not, the important thing is it makes you think, doesn't it? about reality, about what our minds are capable of.
About what we don't know yet.
Exactly, which is exciting, but we've probably given everyone enough to ponder for one day.
Definitely explored the whole spectrum from job interviews to basically the meaning of life,
It's been a wild ride.
for sure. So, to everyone listening, hope this got you thinking a little differently about the law of attraction. Whether you're just trying to find a parking spot or you're out to change the world, a little intention can't hurt. Until next time, stay curious.